I want to say that I maybe spent 6 hours a week when it came to studying during the year. And that is so bad, okay?
DJ Best.
Hello, everyone. So, I am so sorry for the delay in uploading this second year wrapped video. And I know that I said that it was going to be unpopular opinion style, but honestly, y'all, I think that I'm going to change it into deep, thoughtful reflection because I am trying to be mindful of my energy in 2024 because I can feel myself going through some type of emotional transition that I can't quite put my finger on. So, I think it's just best that I try to be reflective rather than critical. So let me just go ahead and get right into it. The first reflection that I'll have to say is that, y'all, I was a lazy student and I did not realize it. I didn't realize it until now that I'm in dedicated preparing for my step 1 exam, which is the first part of the US licensing assessment or examination. And I'm taking it in February 16th. I feel like I've said this so many times now. Well, it's right now scheduled for February 16th. And in this time, y'all, I've been studying for like 6 hours a day. And if I really think about it, I want to say that I maybe spent 6 hours a week when it came to studying during the year. And that is so bad, okay? That is not a good thing. But I also double point, I also have to give myself, or not even myself, give glory to God that I was still able to pass all of my classes despite the fact that I maybe wasn't putting in as much work as I could have been, whereas somebody else was probably studying 8 hours a day. So this whole dedicated period is nothing to them because they've been doing this. They've been doing this since day one and barely passed or potentially did not pass. So that is impressive on one hand, but scary on the other hand, because I don't want to be operating at the bare minimum. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really do want to try to push myself and put a better foot forward, especially now that I'm going to be heading into the clinic starting in the spring. So this has just been a very interesting analysis of the self as I am changing a new or turning over a new academic leaf. And kind of to go along with that, sorry y'all, I have it on my iPad and I ain't got my glasses on right now. They're like back there. They were giving me a headache. I also want to talk about, I want to talk about being realistic with yourself, but then also knowing how to advocate for yourself, right? It's one thing for me to recognize that I'm not putting in as much work as I could, but also understanding that the work that I put out is still proficient, right? I unfortunately had some experiences this year. I'm not going to give too much detail because I'll be damned if I get sued.
They put you in jail right away. No trial, no nothing.
But I unfortunately had some interactions this year that made it clear to me that people had some preconceived notions and biases against me. And I felt as though I was being unfairly persecuted for things that my peers were not. I, had that whole upload about rejection and experiencing rejection. And I'll probably talk more about like the hidden curriculum and for those of you all who want to learn it or understand more about it. But I definitely just felt like that I was being unfairly persecuted because I was still producing good work. And I think that there is a balance there to know that there are areas for self-improvement, but it's called self-improvement for a reason, right? There is constructive criticism and then there are attacks. So learning how to toe that balance is so important, especially if you are a Black student, because it is going to happen where you are confronted with a lot of hypercriticisms and over analyses. And if you start to internalize what you're hearing as truth, you're not going to make it. Like, you're going to have such a negative self-perception, and there's no way that you are going to be able to continue on like that. So having a proper balance is so important. The next thing that I'll say is the importance of social capital. I think that was highlighted so much this year in my second year as I transitioned more into getting research roles and taking more leadership positions in my research roles. I realize now how important it is to meet the right people to put you on. I want to say that I'm only a part of the projects that I'm on because of my mentors. Mentoring is so, so, so key, which is why I am making a whole upload dedicated to it. But in general, when you see your peers succeeding and like doing all of these different things, and you start questioning yourself and your abilities and being like, wow, why not me? Maybe I'm not good enough. It may not be you. It may be that your social network sucks and that you need to start doing some cold calls, cold emailing, and really branching out to figure out, okay, who do I need to meet in order to get me into the places that I want to go to? Also, with the whole knowing who to talk to or building proper social relationships, I brought this up in my first year recap video. But y'all, when I tell you the upperclassmen are not helpful, please do not rely on us, because now I am an upperclassman, right? I am done with my first 18 months of pre-clinicals, and now as a clinical student, I am considered a third year. Don't ask me. Do not ask the people at your institution who are above you, because at the end of the day, they are not going to know how to properly advise you, because the stuff that you're learning as an incoming person is totally different than what they had to learn. And in some ways, it is kind of scary, because we all know that medicine is constantly and rapidly evolving, and it seems like the requirements to be proficient in that evolution are just getting harder and harder, right? Like, there are things that the first years at my institution are doing that I cannot imagine having to do. And I'm sure that, and no, matter of fact, I know that that is the way that my mentors feel, right? Like, when I tell them certain things that I'm going through or that are expected of me, they're like, oh God, I have no idea what that's like. And so it's just kind of interesting how it feels like you're never truly going to get proper guidance on how to go about academic life as a med student, because the only people who are going to know how that feels are your cohort, and obviously they're struggling just the same or in different ways, but at the end of the day, y'all are all on the same ship. So trying to get academic guidance is a little bit more difficult than I really perceived it to be. And now I feel like the higher that I get into my schooling and into my education, I more so focus on mentoring from a emotional perspective and from an individual perspective. But from an academic one, yeah, you might have to take that L and understand that that is something you are going to have to figure out for yourself. Something else that I wanted to sit and reflect on is, I wish that I took better time to my mental health, right? Took more time investing in my mental health as an undergraduate student and really building the proper mental skills to succeed. That's not the right word. I just couldn't think of the one that I wanted to use. Persevere. I don't know. But I think that now I have no choice but to learn it on the go. I have no choice but to learn it as the punches come in. And I think that in undergrad, if I took more time to myself, more time to slow down, more time to spend time with my family and my friends, and to sit and be pensive and reflexive or whatever, if I sat and developed those skills earlier on, I think that I would be better off for it now. And y'all know that this is something that I talk about a lot. I'm always talking about my mental health. I'm always crying. I'm always talking about like just everything, just the truths and the realities of being, one, an adult, and two, a professional student. And so I really wish that these were skills that I could have spent more time developing rather than trying to get them right now. So kind of going back to the lazy student thing, I am only as good as my work ethic, right? And I am starting to realize now that instead of praying for all of these opportunities and all of these blessings, that I need to be grateful for the ones that I currently have and put better work into them. Because it's so it's just so funny, because you feel like you work so hard, so you're deserving of so many things, and then you don't realize how many unfinished tasks that you really have. And that's something that I brought up in my student burnout video. And it is something that I often experience, right? Like, I am currently working on a project that should have been done. I received the project way back in the summer of last year, and it's giving I'm not about to finish it until the spring of this year. And I don't like that. And so I feel like I can only say that, I'm blessed and I have accomplished so many things. based on how much work I put into them, right? Had I really been on my grind and focused on that project, I maybe would have had a paper by now. You know what I'm saying? I maybe would have been able to present it at a poster, presentation or conference now. And the fact that I have not is simply due to me and the energy that I can spare and give to these things. So kind of coming to terms with that reality that it may not be that I'm not being blessed. It may not be, it's definitely not ever really God's fault. But that it's more so a me thing and that I have to do more self-reflection in that department as well. Now kind of transitioning into overall reflections, like existential reflections. This year is so distinctly different from last year. And I have a feeling, like I said, that I'm going through some type of emotional transition and that my third year is going to be distinctly different from my second year. And not even just the expectations placed upon me as a student, but more so how I feel about being a student, right? My place in the working force of medicine has changed, right? I have more responsibilities, but also how I have to think about things needs to mature with it. And so I feel like there's no preparing for that either. And that I have to embrace a lot of changes and additions of new values, questioning a lot of things, and just kind of getting ready for that ride. Because it's crazy how much responsibility I feel like I'm going to have over other people, but then the responsibility that is owed to myself to make sure that I am keeping up with my thoughts. I'm keeping up with my thoughts. I'm keeping up with my feelings. I'm keeping up with just self change as well as my work self. And so I kind of cackle because I remember very, very clearly the very first time. No, this wasn't the very first time. I want to say maybe it was the second or third time that I went to go shadow in the OR, and I talked to this female surgeon, and she's been in the practice for forever. I want to say she was like 60. She was up there, and she was telling me how there was no point in me stressing about all of the different aspects of medical school, because at the end of the day, what I do as a med student is not going to help me as a resident. What I do as a resident is not going to help me as an attending, because they are all distinct and unique experiences and lifestyles that there's simply no way for me to carry over oneself into the next. I'm constantly going to have to shed and evolve. And so it's just crazy to think about, because I think that goes into why my channel has transitioned the way that it has. When I look back at my old videos, y'all, I see just how much I'm like, oh, let me give you all this advice, and like, let me tell you how to do this, and let me tell you how to do that, and here's how I studied for the MCAT, and here is my application list. And I was just so A equals B, right? I was so straightforward back then. And even now, when I get on certain TikToks or when I see certain reels or whatever, and I see that the general message and hype of the medical niche is A equals B, I have such a strong aversion to it now, because there's so much that goes into this field, and you're going to be exposed to so many wrongdoings, so many things that have to be changed, so many things that need to be spoken about, so many things that need to be, added or removed from the education system itself of medicine, right? And just feeling existential in that, that it becomes very hard to go back to the basics of, oh, here's how you get in. Because then I'd be feeling like I can't just tell you how to get in. I have to tell you the realities of it, right? And that is why I have this channel. That is why I upload the things that I upload. And I just never thought that I would be so disconnected from it, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that girl that I watch talking about her experience going into or trying to get into medical school is just not the same person. Like, that is an entirely different genre. And it's crazy to me. And I just hope that I don't end up bitter. I don't end up jaded. I still have a love and a passion for this field. I know that there are a lot of things that I want to accomplish in this field of medicine. And so that's what I try to focus on. And I really limit myself from glamorizing it, because it's not glamorous. It's not. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of effort. It is worth it, but it is a lot. And I think that is why I have stayed away from uploading that type of content. Now, granted, I do still plan to upload things like what you should avoid as a med student. As a pre-medical student, right? Top 10 mistakes that you make, whatever. I also just received an email not too long ago from somebody asking me about how to prepare for the interview at some of the schools that I was accepted into, because they were also accepted into them. And so I definitely still plan on engaging with you all in that way of just being like, yeah, reflecting, here are the things that I learned, here are the things that I think that you should know. But I don't think that I will ever get into the A equals B formula of success, because it leaves out way too much. It leaves out way too much. And I'm sorry if this wasn't like a super exciting video compared to maybe my one from last year. But honestly, I think that with me, as I said, getting into the clinic, having more responsibilities, I have no choice but to advance my thinking and mature my thinking and like be so for real. Like I really have to be so for real with myself. And so I hope that the transition and the change isn't too much for you all as my subscribers, right? I still would like you all to support me, and I still would like to be a help to you. I just think that this maturity and this change and this growth is not something that I'm going to purposefully or intentionally shield from you all. I want to record it and be as authentic as possible so that you guys can go and grow with me. I think that's pretty much it for this upload. I thought it was going to be much longer than that, but maybe because I'm also a little tired after having done all this cooking and meal prepping, and now I have to go and study. That might be another reason why too. And I hope that you all look forward to my future uploads still. Love you guys the most. Adios.